Welcome to the Roundtable Podcast with me, your host, Michael Baum. Tune in as we have honest and genuine talks about everything real estate and so much more. Let's get to it. All right, we're here today with Rob Taylor. Rob, nice to have you on board.
Same with you. Appreciate you having me.
Who's Rob Taylor? And how many restaurants do you have?
Rob Taylor could be different to a few different people. My father started restaurants and bars when he was younger, and I worked with him and grew up with him working in this business. He was nice enough to bring me along. I kind of just learned the business that way, and ended up getting involved at the Sandbar, which was just like a little fish and chip shack at the time. And that's where I got my start working in the restaurant business. And then he took over Five Bridges, which is in Review. And I was given an opportunity to come home and become an owner because I was at that point just working for him.
Come home meaning?
I was in Australia living and trying to play poker and an interesting lifestyle. And he gave me an opportunity to come home. And I was leading on to him that I was doing quite well down there, but I wasn't. But I was having fun. And he said, here's an opportunity for you to come home and own a restaurant, but you've got to come home right now. So I packed up my things in Australia, headed home, and became an equal partner with him at Five Bridges and built that into a successful small business. And from that point on, I was able to invest a little bit into the Sandbar with him. And unfortunately, he passed away about 5 years ago. At that point, I took over the shares at the Sandbar, and I already had some small shares at Captain Dan's with Brett and my mother. And then we moved into Boulevard, which is where we're at right now. And we also have the Point Sheen Ice Cream Shop. And we have partners at East Coast Kitchens, which is like a ghost kitchen concept, which Tanya's father, my wife's father, put together. A pretty cool thing. It was the first one in the Maritimes for sure, a ghost kitchen concept where you had 17, I think we've got 20 some restaurants in there. And it's all serving out of the same thing. And its focus is delivery, pretty much. So you have as many concepts as possible under one roof. It's really popular in big cities, but you don't see it very often here. So it's pretty cool to see him execute that. Moved on to some different things from there. So Rob Taylor would be a restaurant entrepreneur. I'd like to think I'm a huge community partner and an overall great guy.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Most times.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. So you lived in Australia. That I didn't know. How long did you live there, and what brought you there?
Lived there for 6 months with my buddy Matt. I was 20, I think at the time. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. When I was younger, I wasn't very mature. I just was all over the place. What I thought my father owned, I thought I owned, which is like funny now that I have kids and I realize like I didn't technically own what my father owned. But when I was 24, I thought that. So I kind of really needed to maybe mature a little bit and find myself. And I think that's kind of how that trip worked out kind of a little bit for me. Got me away from like my family. I had to work at some restaurants, and that was really the first time I worked for someone outside of my father, which was kind of a rude awakening, going and helping myself to like the food out back or similarities along those things when you think you own the place. And finding out that you don't was a good awakening for me, and realizing that like, hey, I've got it pretty good at home, maybe go home and start working with my father and taking things a little more seriously. Appreciate the situation a little more. And that's what I think Australia was really good for me, because I was able to go down there and, realize not everything's about me. Bigger picture here. You've got to work for your things. My father's businesses aren't my businesses. And if I want those businesses, I'll have to contribute and not just be given things and work at it, right? I always had a good work ethic to the point, but I made a lot of mistakes, put my dad under some pressure, showing up hungover, or, you know what I mean? Putting himself in positions where if I wasn't his son, who knows if I would have kept my job. And I think getting away and going to Australia was really good for me, because it made me realize like, hey, that's not the real world. So
how did your dad take it when you left to Australia, and how was that relationship at that time between you two?
He was pretty pumped about it. I think he was like, hey, Rob's getting away. Hopefully he gets to mature a little bit here. And it was the end of the summer from a Sandbar summer. So it was good timing for me to get away and mature a little bit for him, because I was getting to the point where, not saying 24, 25 is old by any means. I really don't think a lot of people discover themselves until they're 30 or 35 anyways. But I was 24, 25, still living in my parents' pool house, You know what I mean? And had to really make that decision if what direction I was going to go in life. So I think my dad was pretty excited for me to get away and just kind of learn that, hey, there's a whole world out there that I should probably learn about. And it was good. I did. It did. And it lasted 6 months and came home and still made a lot of mistakes afterwards, but was a much better situation and a little more mature to kind of get involved in the business.
I think everybody needs to kind of go through their own path at some point, right? Sometimes family businesses are not always easy. I've went through still partners with my family. And, I mean, it is what it is, and you have some ups and downs, and that's how it works. So
yeah, I think the trickiest thing for me was to just, for some reason, the concept of the family business was the family business. And for me, it was like, I always just assumed I was part of the family business. And I know that might sound weird to some people, but like, when you're in the family business and your family owns something, it's hard to think that you don't own it.
Oh, no.
Like, you know what I mean?
I totally agree.
It's a strange concept and it's weird to talk about, but I've talked about friends with this, and it's like something clicked in my brain when I finally realized that, like, hey, like, this is my father's retirement plan. This is how he plans on finishing up. Like, I'm not just going to be given this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know why that never sunk into me when he told me that 100 times. He's like, you don't own this. I own this. And it took me a long time to realize that. And that was kind of the strangest, because my father would come in and get mad at me or say, do things like this, or, hey, why are you late for work? Or, you've got to be a bigger leader on the team. You've got to lead by example. You're supposed to be the boss here. Blah, 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 blah. And I was always like, But now that I'm older, I kind of realized that. I did realize that before he was passed away, which by the end of our relationship, we were 10 out of 10. Like, we worked amazingly well together for 5 years. But for the first, 10 or 15 years, it was definitely a battle. But don't give up, I guess, is the message.
Yeah.
And recognize how lucky you are to work with your parents. And especially if he's like a mentor, which my father was definitely a mentor, just realize how lucky you are to have that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you do if now you have a son and a daughter, and what would you encourage your son to be in the family business, or would you try to encourage him or her, both of them, to do their own thing as a second generation entrepreneur in the family business, as I am? We're on the same. We have kids now. What are you thinking? And I know you think about your kids a lot. You're a big family man.
Those questions are cool now that, like, we both, you know what I mean? We both have kids. We're similar age. Like, it's neat to talk about. Your kids are a little older than mine, but like, it's a neat concept to think about, and it's fun to talk about with other fathers. It's cool. I think I would support him getting into just being a small business person. I mean, the economy and the world is changing, and who knows what's going to happen in the future with technology and stuff. And I think small business owners, the few safe spots I see in the future, services, people that we're going to need, those positions are going to be available. So I think about that a lot. I spent a lot of time in those holes. And yeah, I would support him getting into this.
We won't touch on those today.
No, we won't get too deep into it. We've only got a little bit of time. But I think I would 100% support him getting into the small business. We've got some seasonal businesses that, maybe, knock on wood, it should be around for a while, that I would love to see my son or my daughter or my sister or somebody else, like, someone in the family always
continue
keep it. Yeah, like, the Sandbar, and I'm partners with Brett at Captain Dan's, and those are great businesses. And we're partners here. In my opinion, Boulevard's here for just as long of a stay. The neighborhood's growing around it and stuff like that, where it feels like you're connected with the community and there's a real family vibe to it. It's not a corporate field, you know what I mean? And I think my kids would really enjoy that. And I would have no problem doing that. But it's really whatever they want to do. I'm not going to push them too hard. I think I have a decent idea of how I want to raise them, to a point where I've just made every mistake in the world. I think I can learn from those mistakes. My interaction with my mother and my father, you know what I mean? I think I learned enough from the mistakes that I made. I think I have a foot up on what to maybe provide them. I know I'm going to get thrown 100 million curveballs, and I'm going to be like, that plan's out the window. But I have a decent idea of how I kind of want to guide them along. And if they want to get into it, great. And if they don't, that's fine. I'll support them whatever they want to do. But I would support them getting into this business for sure.
I would agree with that 100%. The kids, who they want to be. But at the same time, I think growing up in an entrepreneurial family, I kind of have that one up on maybe a lot of people become an entrepreneur. Not saying that it's easy by any means. It's
Mhm.
just by growing into it. You talk about it at the kitchen table. You talk
Yeah.
about it on your drives to your hockey rink or whatever, and your parents are talking about it. I just find that's
If it's in your blood, yeah, 100%. My mother owned dry cleaners when I grew up. That's where we worked until we were old enough to work at the restaurants. I mean, she was an entrepreneur. My father was an entrepreneur. You know, a real hardworking entrepreneur. Like, you know, he did well his entire life, but he really reinvented himself when he was near 50 years old, and that's not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
So I've seen the highs and lows,
Yeah.
and the ups and downs. And I've seen every aspect of it. You know, everyone just assumes it's like glitz and glamour and like that's where it always started.
Yeah.
I can promise you, like it wasn't always like that. You know, my father and mother worked very, very hard. It worked out very well for them, but I've seen the highs and lows of it. If you can stand the ebbs and flows and the peaks and valleys of a small business, it's a great thing to get involved in.
Yeah, that's what happens. Sometimes people see the cars or the trips at 45, 50, 60 years old and say, oh, it must be nice and it's easy.
Yeah,
It's
it
ebbs and
takes a
flows.
lot. It's you know, COVID was not easy. I was all in several times during COVID, and that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you've got to be willing to make that risk where you go all in on things are awesome for 2 or 3 years in a row, but then you've got 6 months where you're all in on 3 or 4 different investments. And if you don't have the stomach for that, maybe being a small business person or an investor, an entrepreneur is not really the thing for you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My view on that is being an entrepreneur, you have to be able to risk it all almost. You have
Yeah.
to be able to put it all on the line and believing in yourself, believing that you will get to it, you will do good, and you believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I see some guys like around town, and I'm inspired by a lot of people. I think another big thing for me was when I got over not to say I was jealous of people or anything, but I was
Yeah.
more motivated by seeing people do well. But it maybe came off a little bit in some jealousy just because I was motivated by it, if that makes any sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
But when I see people around, like, I know a lot of people my age, and some guys a couple years older and some guys a couple years younger, and I see them going, and now I'm so motivated by it. Instead of just being like sitting there and getting sour by it,
Mhm.
I'm proud of them, and I reach out to them and I ask them questions, and I say, how did you do that? How did you work up the like to invest in that? You know what I mean? Pull the
Yeah,
trigger. I see
yeah.
sometimes when you pull trigger on land, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Some other guys around town, I won't say their names, but they know who they are. I ask them questions. I was like, how do you know what I mean? How'd you pull the trigger on that? You just got, you know what I mean? Like, it's real
How you
interesting.
pull the trigger on a golf course.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? It's really
Yeah.
interesting to see,
Yeah.
and then seeing something develop around it. It's a
Mhm.
cool end result. And I think for me, I'm doing my thing, but I don't think I'm where I want to be yet in terms of being able to pull triggers like some of the people I see doing. And I'll learn that. And like mentors, I'm sure we'll talk about that. But
Yeah.
it-
How old are you now?
I'm 40.
40.
Yeah.
So you see yourself at 40 years old. Do you feel it's just a start, or do you feel it, or I know I'm 45 and I feel like I just feel like I'm getting started sometimes. Like, just like the learnings of,
Ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
The ups and downs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like sometimes I feel like I'm content. You meet with your financial advisor and he says, here's your 10-year mark and here's where where you can expect to be and how much do you want? How much do you need? Where do you plan on going? And then I get real content with that. Or then a business deal goes south and then I've got to like scramble to kind of fix that a little bit and get back on the financial plan. Or do I want more than that? You know what I mean? Or then I
Yeah.
see some guys my age and we all know who we're talking, like
Mhm.
guys, that are killing it and
Yeah.
they're going here and they're doing that and they're investing that and they're doing things the right way too. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
And that motivates you to get going. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting going and sometimes I'm just like content with my kids, but you need to stay busy. And luckily, I'm like a partner with my wife and she works her butt off. So she motivates me as well to get up and go to work every day. After COVID, it certainly wasn't easy because once you get through that, it was just like blood pressure through the roof going every day, grind and figuring out how to keep going. And I'm very proud of my wife and I and how we did that and how we were almost like industry leaders through that thing. But it took a lot out of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
who
for
knows?
sure.
I think I'd like to keep going and I'm sure we will. But some days you don't, some days you do.
So you talked a bit about being partners with your wife, and you also talked about Brett. Who is Brett, and what does he mean to you and your family?
Yeah, I mean, Brett's the coolest guy. He was my father's best friend when I was young growing up.
Yeah.
And he was always just the nicest guy in the room. And I think if you ask anybody around town, say the exact same thing. People have worked with him, people have worked for him. He is just the most caring, biggest heart I've ever met in my life. So I'm partners here with him at Boulevard and partners with him at Captain Dan's. He also owns Gusto. I just can't really put it into words what he means to me.
But what did he taught you, and how close was the relationship between your father and him, but also like how close is your relationship now, and you're partners with him in what business are you partners with him? Say the ones that you want, but like what's and
so,
how important is that relationship?
So Brett and I were close relatively to a point before my father passed away. Like we were always just friendly, and he was always kind of like the mediator between my father and I, which was funny because he's always so calm. So whenever my father and I would have a blow up or we'd be into it, Brett would come over, calm things down. Actually, his shares are the ones that I took over at Five Bridges. Brett had just gotten Gusto going, and he was just wide open, busy with Gusto. Like Gusto's a monster, right? Yeah. Brett sold me his shares at Five Bridges so my father and I could run that together. So that's how that happened.
Oh, that's awesome.
Brett would always kind of be the mediator. Like if my dad was passionate, and he's known to be a passionate guy. And Brett would always be kind of the guy that would level things out and be like, Rob, here's to it. Because me and Brett are very much alike.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like,
similar.
It's unbelievable.
So is it like maybe like a good cop, bad cop type of situation?
Yeah, but the thing is like Brett can get, like, if he's going to get his point across, he can do it. Okay. No questions asked. But we're generally, for the most part, we're usually both the good cop, which is funny. And my father was always kind of the bad cop. And Brett can definitely put his foot down a lot better than I can. But he would always be kind of the guy in the middle. And then when my father passed away, I used to call my dad probably 45 times a day. Like it was just, I didn't the dumbest ideas, but my dad would always entertain them. And sometimes he'd get pumped up about a few of them and we would do them. You know, we did some crazy investment. But when he passed away, that hole was just like gone. You know what I mean? Like, who do I call 45 times a day to run things by? And Brett Judson is notoriously known for not answering his phone. Like he's just because he gets called a million times a day, right? One thing about Brett is whenever I call, he answers every time. Yeah. And that means a lot. And he does it for a reason too. I'm not stupid. Yeah. I'm not going to like cry or get emotional, but
no, but it's the truth. It's
100%.
You are where you are because you're, the relationship with your father and Brett's, and that's important, right? I feel I'm where I am because of my father as well, and mother both.
So Brett stepped in nicely there, which was good for me because, like it was difficult, didn't handle it properly, spiraled a little bit, and like dealt with it properly after the first maybe 2 years. I didn't deal with it properly for the first 2 years. But if I didn't have
a long time.
Yeah, to just try to muscle through something. Like people think like if a member of your family passes away, or there's ways to handle things and there's ways not to handle things, and going into COVID, he just passed away, COVID, then major hurricane on a wharf. It triple whammy for me because I had to buy out my father. I had like quite a bit of money invested there to purchase his shares for my mother. And then I roll right into COVID, and then I roll right into a hurricane, and potentially everything gets washed away. And obviously my wife and a lot of other people were there for me, but Brett answered his phone every day. Still does. I don't call him as much anymore or bug him anymore, but I still call him 2 or 3 times a day, which just seems crazy, but I do. But for that point, I was probably calling him 15 or 20 times a day, and he answered every time. Even no matter what, I could hear how busy he was in the background. He answered every time. So so we're partners here, and we're partners at Captain Dan's, and we're pretty well partners in everything in terms of it's in our group. Right. You know what I mean? We've got, I think, 7 restaurants, and it's all under one umbrella. And we all work together, and we all share information, and we all work off the same POS systems and the email addresses. And then we've got a guy who works with us named Reen, who's the executive general manager for the group. And I mean, Reen's incredible. We're lucky to have him. And we just got a really, really good team. Like, I don't want to just isolate him out on things and not thank everyone else. But for the most part,
leadership group.
Yeah. I mean, the leadership group's insane. And and I was taught that from a young age. It's not great to micromanage things. It's really good to be able to work with people you trust. Yeah. We've got that with our group, and we're very lucky.
That's cool. That's awesome.
I almost cried.
So that's
make sure you show Brett that. all that. Yeah.
So I guess this is a real estate podcast, right? So what do you feel is the importance? We're here in Boulevard Restaurant in Dieppe at Fox Creek, and people are working. We'll hear some stuff in the background. That's all part of it.
It's screwed me up a few times already, but we'll get through it.
But I mean, I want to tell the audience that's kind of, we're right in business here. It doesn't stop. So the business keeps going, which kind of makes it cool. But what would you feel locations? Because you have a restaurant at the Sandbar, which is on the Pointe du Chien Wharf in Shediac. You have one in Riverview. you have one here in Dieppe. So what would you feel that the importance of a location of some sort, because they're all in 3 totally different locations?
Yeah, for me is everything. Because I think what has made myself and our group successful is the ability to become community partners with people. That's kind of where we focus our things on. It was my father's idea. I'm not going to take credit for his idea, and review's a tough market. But he thought that, the community in which you lived would support you. And it's very, very true. That's why I feel like businesses that you can focus on the community part side of things, gives you a little bit of an upper hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in Shediac, obviously being on the wharf, it's priceless. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. It's a great tourism attraction. You're not getting anything obstructing your view of the ocean. Pretty lucky to have that. And then now in Dieppe, it's obviously a different type of vibe in here. And at Review, we're more of a blue collar bar and grill pub, not so much a pub, but blue collar bar and grill. Here's a little more upscale, but the same premise in terms of community support, community involvement. It's a small enough community where stuff like that doesn't go unnoticed. You know what I mean? And we're just really getting going. We haven't been able to execute it as much as we did in Review, but we've done some really good things in terms of Dieppe Minor Hockey, Matthew Martin, high school, other local charities we've got involved in. And that stuff goes a long way in smaller communities. Whereas if you were, say, downtown Moncton or in the North End, you're competing with a lot of corporate, and unfortunately, maybe some of that local involvement may get lost a little bit, as much as it would in a small community. So yeah, I think, in my opinion, smaller communities like Riverview and Dieppe, while they pose some difficult moments and stuff, for the most part, it works out really well for your favor, as long as you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
And prove to the community that you're here to support them and you're a true community partner.
All that being said, I find everybody have pride into each of their community, which is it's cool to see.
It's crazy. I still remember when Dieppe, there was nothing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I was born here.
Then there was a golf course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just remember growing up as a kid, and I still can't believe it's been near 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years this year.
You're right. For me, it feels like that was Fox Creek opened 2 years ago. It doesn't seem like a long time ago. So it's a strange concept to talk about. Dieppe was very, very small before, this development kind of popped up. So, it's pretty cool. You guys had a big part of that. And the biggest part of it. And, and it's still a small community. It's growing extremely fast.
Yeah.
Which is great. Mm-hmm. Which is great for us because we're some central and, it's going to be great for us. It's still a small community where things don't go unnoticed. And if you take care of them, generally, for the most part, they'll take care of you. That's my opinion on things.
I would agree with you 110%. So we're here at Boulevard. So how did that whole thing come about? I know some of the
ins and outs.
For the listeners.
I think we talked about it briefly, but my theory on it, I've told everyone this story, so you tell me if I'm wrong, but you came to the Sandbar when Prime Minister Trudeau was there, and the lineup was 400 people, and the wharf was pumping, the Sandbar was pumping, and I think you went in there and you had a great meal. You were with Zach and some friends of yours.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a real high energy vibe, and it was fun. And I think I was running around there, and it was a whole thing. And then, I think the opportunity for renewal here came up, or you were potentially looking for, to see what the options were. And I think I reached out and I just said, what about taking that energy that we had that day in Shediac on the wharf and potentially bringing it here? And that's when the conversation started. That's why I tell the story. So hopefully that's some partially truth to it. So yeah, for the most part, it was just, bringing that same kind of energy and excitement to this place. We've always gotten along really well. So that was also another good thing. The concept was, it was a no-brainer. I mean, we're right smack dab in the middle of Dieppe on, in my opinion, one of the nicest golf courses in the Maritimes. I don't think it's just in my opinion. It is the nicest golf course in the Maritimes. And we're some lucky to have it. And if you just go down the street from here, the apartment buildings and the buildings that are going up, it's just absolutely bananas. Dieppe is just...
Dieppe Boulevard's going to continue on to Dover Road.
And with Quest doing their developments just down at the end of Yvonne, the new development that, you and some guys are doing on Karma, and then other developers just around the corner, and there's still lots of land.
Yeah.
I mean, Dieppe is in just such a growth moment to a point where you're going to be able to develop it and develop it right. You know what I mean? It's not going to be developed around any old infrastructure. It's going to be all beautiful. And the roads are all going to make sense. And
I agree.
And we're right smack dab in the middle of it. So we're pretty excited.
Now it's been a year and a few months.
Year and some change, yeah.
You guys opened in July. I would say that the story is very similar on our part, but we did have another tenant before that was great. We had a great relationship. It was fantastic for a long, long time. They were looking for some changes. So then we had no restaurant, and then the opportunity came. We wanted to make sure that we found, and you were my first call. And then you said, well, I won't do it if Brett doesn't come in. And then I'm like, damn it. So, and then, and then Brett came along, and you know what? Like, that he was one human that I didn't know before last year, and now would consider him a friend, and very, very happy to have met him and consider him a friend, not only a business, I guess, we're not business partners, but you're tenant in our building.
We're definitely partners.
So we're in a sense partners, and very happy and fortunate to have done that. So after this is now the first year. How did the first year go? How is it going?
First year,
what's the typical thing of a restaurant? Is it to do good for the first year? Does it take 5 years, 10 years? When you start a new restaurant, and you guys have put a lot of money in here and a lot of sweat.
First, I live in Dieppe. You know,
Okay.
I came to the gate more times than I could tell you. I ate takeout here all the time. Spent a lot of time here. So I knew this business well before that was ever an option. Notoriously, winters have been difficult here to try to balance and go from a super busy 4-month period to slow things down and maintain a business that's open year round. It's tricky in terms of staffing, food, balancing things out. So I knew winter was going to be who knows, right? Like, I didn't know which way winter was going to go. Was it going to slow way down? Did we going to go back to minimize hours? But at the same time, I knew Dieppe had grown a ton over the last 2 years. So I knew that was going to play in, where I knew there was a lot more people here and there was more foot traffic. So it was 50-50. It wasn't sure. Brett was convinced. Brett was like, we're going to be busy. It's going to be a good winter. But that's how Brett is. I was not as sure as he was, but I still felt pretty good about it. And then we had a great winter. We paid our bills, made some money, built a great reputation, and we flew through the winter pretty well. And you know what was the catalyst for us to really kick us for the remainder of the slow season was Burger Week. We did a Burger Week here.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and
that burger was amazing.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Super well done.
Yeah.
And they killed it. We went through our Christmas rush, and then we went into Burger Week, and then from that way on, we stayed busy, flowed right in. Obviously, summers here are great.
Yeah.
You can't compete with anything here. I mean, other than Sandbar and Shediac. I mean, in my opinion, like, there's not a lot of nicer patios in the, just it's beautiful. Which, by the way, we're doing all over, and it's going to be some beautiful here in the next summer.
You want to spill the beans?
It's going to be nice. So it was a great summer, and then we flowed right in, and the sales have stayed good, and we've got some really good ideas. And like I said, like, we've got Reen over here as an executive general manager helping out. Everything's just trending really, really in the right direction, and we couldn't be happier.
What do you see Boulevard in 5, 10, 15 years from now? Are you just going year by year, or you see this being here for a long, long time? Where do you see it?
I'd love to, like, it's funny you mentioned, like, where do you plan? Do you still want to work a bunch? How do you get involved? And I know I'm still young, but like, I am, I'm diversifying and trying to figure out some alternative routes. And honestly, a big part of my goal, my wife and I have talked about it. We bought a piece of land off of you on Karma.
Yeah.
We plan on building our forever home there. That's 30 seconds away. So long-term goal, if Brett allows it, would be beautiful for my wife and I to be able to work here with Brett and his family and really be here for a long time. And I love walking in here. I love eating here. I love hanging out here. I spent a ton of time here for my first time really this summer. I met a lot of good guys and girls and had a lot of fun here.
Okay.
And can't wait to get more involved. And I know we keep saying that. It feels like but it's only been a year. You know what I mean? And I can't wait to continue to get more and more involved, whether that's on a community aspect or on a personal friendship level with people. Long-term, plan on working here like forever.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, working there in the summer, Shediac part-time here would be like kind of the goal for me.
Kind of feel throughout the last year, I've felt like even the vibes at Fox Creek is just, there's a vibe to it. I don't know. So you were a member this year, and how did you find the whole being a member here and the whole thing?
I was a member here first year out of COVID, and then never really took advantage of it, played a few times. And then last summer had a newborn. So I couldn't really do much. So this was really the first summer I was able to take advantage of it. And me and Rick Legier talked about it a bunch that on the final day. And we were saying like, this was such a magical summer. I know that sounds cheesy, but it was an incredible summer. The membership was top tier. Everybody was smiles. The golf course was incredible. The restaurant worked really well in combination of it. The member side, people had a lot of fun. The tournaments went off without a hitch. People would talk about Fox Creek. It would come up even without them knowing that, our association with it. It was in Cabot and it came up. What I mean? That's why we're redoing the patio cool. Because like I want to take a little bit of that vibe and put it here.
What do you want to do there? Put some
fire pits and couches and areas for people to hang out and get out and watch people coming up 18, similar to like Cabot when you're on the course, you know what I mean? So you feel like you're really there. And that's what we're doing. And, we're finalizing that soon. So people next year are going to have a really cool place to hang out. It was an incredible summer in terms of the membership. And you just feel it in Dieppe. You can just feel it like growing and growing in a good way, not like in a bad way. Like it's growing really, really the way things should go. And you can feel it from a small business owner, but you can also feel, I live in Dieppe, I live on Yvonne. Soon we're going to be on Karma. I want to be here for the rest of my life. And I know people in Riverview are going to watch this and be upset, but I love Riverview. Don't get me wrong, but I love Riverview, but it's some nice being able to just take a rip down to the golf course and either hit some balls on the course or, have a beer at the restaurant or head out for a round. And the ability to get a tee time as quickly. Anyways, I'm not pumping your tires, but it was an incredible summer. I met some amazing people and every single person I spoke to said the exact same thing. I never heard a single negative thing this summer from anybody.
Well, that's good. That's right. When we built Fox Creek 25 years ago, the idea was to provide a place where everybody could congregate and gather, and that was the whole idea.
Well, when you originally got us involved, sorry to interrupt, that was you and Denise prior, when we met with you guys, you said, listen, we're willing to invest in this as well because we're trying to create a vibe for the members and the community.
And that was the first idea thing you said. Initially was the idea. And the weird thing, and now, like any other business 25 years later, it's now we came through probably one of the best years we've ever had in terms of everything, like just all around being a private golf course, but also the restaurant, everything else, just everything is a good vibe. And it's like, but
it's neat to see it come to reality. It's almost like, because it doesn't always work like that.
No, but it's also like kind of like all the businesses, right? So it's like, look at this, but oh my God, the last 20 years has not been easy.
And never once did I see you without a smile on your face and continuously reinvesting into this and I seen it. I didn't know you. You didn't know me. No. I knew you. And I'd always seen you walk around.
I knew you too.
But I'd always see you with a smile on your face. And people would always say the same thing about you and your brother and your family. And everyone had the same opinion on things. And it is incredible to see the fruits of your labor. I know you're just getting going as well, but it's neat to see them pay off. And I mean, it was an incredible summer and we're very lucky to be here and we're very lucky to be in Dieppe. And like I said, we're planning on being in Dieppe the rest of our lives. So.
Well, that's awesome. And really, I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate you taking the time and do this podcast.
Hopefully you can edit and make me look half decent in it because I ramble on. Make sure you put a tear coming down my face when I talk about Brett. But
I could have asked one more question and it would have happened.
That would have nudged me right over.
And I didn't want to do that.
It would have killed me. My wife will laugh at that.
Yeah. No, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. So to everyone, please like and subscribe and share if you like this podcast. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.